Okay, we're in our third segment with Shaun, and this is going to be the last segment. We've talked a lot about in the first segment about his teenage, about his childhood, about how he was bullied and how he attempted to commit suicide, but then how he was able to get out of that situation. And then in the second one, we've explored the experiences a little more, talked about the difficulties of and some myths around suicide, and also about the coping strategies that Shaun has used in his life, or other people have suggested those strategies. And also we talked about seeking help and knowing that you're not alone, and there are people around. Other people also might be feeling the same, but you can seek help or support to the extent of going for therapy or mental health support, but also support from your loved ones, your family, your friends, people you trust. So I guess I would like to start with that note with Shaun, like, did you seek help, or how did you, were you able to speak to someone about it? What did you do? So yeah.
Yeah. So at the time when I was 12, no, I didn't even see seeking help as an option. Like I said, there's a lot of stigma around seeking help for mental health, especially for males. So I didn't talk to my parents about it. I told my mother about the bullying from the teacher years later. I think I was 23 probably when I told her about it. And she said, "Why didn't you come to me at that time?" And I didn't really know how to answer, because at the time, it was kind of weird because I didn't have a hatred towards that teacher. Actually, I'll just go back to how I actually told her about that. One of the teachers that I think I was saying something about, two teachers were coming to me kind of indirectly saying, is everything okay right now, and all that. But one of the teachers had just died, and I was sort of kind of taken aback by his death, and I was sort of kind of thinking, oh, like he was actually one person that I could have reached out to, and I could have talked to, but I didn't. But I kind of felt like he was there, even though I didn't say it to him. So he had died, and that kind of made me. My mother was, talking to me about his death, and then I kind of said, "Oh, he asked me if I was okay one time, and this is why, and the background story to the whole thing." And then she said, "If you had told me, I would have went up and complained." And it's something I do regret, because I'm not saying I really hope that particular teacher grew as a person, realizes that speaking about students to students in a whole room is not, it's not what a teacher should do. It's like, if you don't understand that that's having an impact on a child, I don't know why you're a teacher. Like, I don't. Yeah, so I did say that to her, but I didn't tell her about the suicide part. That's something I've been keeping. I might have said it in passing, but I never really explained it or talked about it in detail. And so I never told anybody. I never kind of reached out for help, and that was a big mistake, I think, on my part. But again, I was only a child. I was scared to tell people. And then, when I was in my 20s, I told people about bits about the bullying and all of that. And actually that person, started to use that information against me to hurt me, kind of trying to, I don't know what the word is, kind of resurrect the trauma of it, by criticizing my body odor, by criticizing the way I looked, and very quickly. But I was fortunate for at the time I was able to kind of take a step away from that person and say, you're not really a person for me, and I need to get away from you right now, and goodbye, good luck. And it's scary to tell people because you don't know if that person's the right person, first of all, whether that person is just going to laugh at you. You sort of feel like that, whether that person's just going to judge you for having experienced bullying, or or experiencing thoughts around suicide, and you don't know whether there's just this trust element to it. I think you really need to trust the person you're telling, and that can be very hard. Yeah, it can be very, very hard. Even someone that's really close to you, you might start to feel have thoughts about, oh, if I tell that person I'm struggling with this, with suicide thoughts, will they think that they're not good enough to help you through it? Or just very, very sticky situation, and it can be hard on everybody to have those conversations, and or these conversations. So I acknowledge that, and I kind of say, but definitely, if you see an opportunity, and I think the crisis helplines are really good for this. The 50808 is a text service, so you don't actually, and it can be an anonymous texting service, so it can. I think that would help you kind of with thoughts around, oh, I don't know if I should say it to anybody, or I'm starting to feel a bit vulnerable. I think that system is really good for that.
About being able to talk to someone and to be very careful about who you talk to, which is again a very important point you raised. And I guess for children, it's again much more harder to decipher if you're young, like whether you talk to your parents, whether you talk to your teachers. So if you do have someone or you trust someone to speak with, do make that effort, is what I hear you say. But also, if not, then there are helplines that you could reach out to. And I guess I would like to again mention here, like you mentioned 50808, but also there is a helpline for children, like this Childline. So children any age can also contact a Childline, and we are going to put that in the description box as well. And again, Childline is a global worldwide service, so there numbers, different numbers for different countries, but I'll try and give it a description where they can, in the description box, where they can seek help in a particular country where they are based right now. So I guess, yes, for children or adults, if you have someone you can speak with, first you try and seek that support, but if not, then do seek through helplines or any other mental professionals, or maybe your GPs if you can, and who will put you then in touch with the right people. But do something about it. Don't just keep quiet and struggle alone. Is something that I hear you.
Definitely. I think the struggle alone did a lot of damage to me, I prolonged the struggle with it, and I didn't need to.
Yeah. Completely. And also another thing that you said about the stigma around mental health issues, which again is a global issue, and I think that's for people who are kind of trying to offer support in the family, so to not stigmatize mental health issues, because there are so many people coping with that, dealing with that, especially given the COVID time right now. Again, so many different issues that can raise the possibility of mental health issues. So something to be very careful about. And also something that you said, for boys, it's harder to seek help and support. Again, I guess that's could be for any gender, men, women. But again, the statistics show us that men, when you look at the number, like I said, the World Health Organization says 800,000 every year suicide, people who die of suicide, and it's a 17th leading cause of death. It was 17th leading cause of death in 2019, and more males always show up in numbers who commit suicide than females. maybe also
Yeah.
pointing to the fact that they are finding hard to go out and seek support or talk about their struggles with other people. I think it's really important what we are talking about right now, that to be able to not struggle alone, you pay a much heavier price for that. So, and you don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
And another thing with males, and I don't know if this is in every culture. I don't, you know, I'm not an expert on cultural differences in emotional expression or anything, but particularly in Ireland, and probably in the UK anyway, uh, I think there's a lot of pressure on men to sort of suppress their emotional,
Yeah.
even excitement. Like I noticed when I became a teenager that I sort of numbed out to the excitement that I used to have when I was a kid. Uh, I numbed out to that. I sort of numbed to the depression after a while too. And there's this sort of suppression. And I really think that's so, you know,
Yeah.
unhealthy. It's kind of like you're telling young boys, you know, and you know, but this is a problem for girls too. Some girls are told not to, you know, have particular emotions, and they can't show that particular emotion, and it's a horrible thing because you're basically saying, no, you can't have that emotion.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of it,
Yeah.
and you're not teaching children to, uh, like I said earlier, about having the feelings and not having or not letting those feelings or thoughts have you, sort of.
Yeah.
um you're not giving those children the chance to learn that. You're not
Yeah.
um saying it's okay to have anxiety, but the anxiety can't control your life.
Yeah.
It's okay to have depression, but the depression can't dictate whether you live or die.
Yeah.
um you know uh um so that's one thing
Yeah.
I would add there.
Yeah, definitely. And there are different kind of pressures based on which gender you belong to or consider yourself associated with. But yeah, for men, there are different pressures, like you said in UK, or I see in Asia a lot, that men being providers, they have to be strong, you can't cry.
Yeah.
So all the pressure of
Yeah.
masculinity. But also for women, there are different kinds of pressure that you can't
You
go out.
can't be strong.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't show that you're strong. You know, that's one that comes up for females, I think,
Yeah,
a lot.
that or the other way around, that, especially again in many parts of Asia or India, once you get married, you have to show like you are strong, you can take care of your in-laws and of your children, of your husband. So if you're weak, that means you're not in the right state of mind to do things. So that kind of pressure that you have to be up and ready for everything from 6 in the morning to late night. So, or just the pressure to be strong and to be able to handle that life throws at you. Um,
Yeah.
you can't talk about your stress or distress, especially in your house with in-laws, or you can't go back and talk to your family if there are any stress struggles in the in-laws house with parents-in-laws or with your husband, because you don't want to cause any problems in your maternal home. So yeah, all these different challenges that people go through, which can,
It's so sad. It's terribly sad.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I think in particular for I don't know why. I think for children it's just not healthy. It's just,
yeah,
what are we like, even that mother, that example of that mother, the wife example, a child seeing that, and thinking, oh, that's the way I have to be, but actually I'm feeling kind of sad. I have to be like mom,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
exactly.
uh, it's so sad. It's terribly sad that they can't just have the feelings of sadness
Yeah.
and let it pass naturally. You know, they just can't. It's not allowed almost, and it's
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I guess when children, if you see this, parents are the first role models for children in many ways. So if you see parents not demonstrating or displaying their emotions and looking all happy. And I'm not saying that show your sadness to children or whatever, but
I
again,
think
you need to know how to express and then the coping strategies around that. But if you feel
yeah.
that your parents are always like on the spot, at it, happy, you don't want to show your sadness and make your parents sad then also, so it's something that I guess it's about, again, open communication within the families and spending that quality time and allowing each other to express their emotions, whether it's
Yeah.
happy emotions or sad emotions.
Yeah. And just linking it back up, that's one of the I think it's one of the most significant barriers for people sharing what they're experiencing and what they're going through. It's definitely a significant barrier that those outside pressures.
Yeah, completely.
Um,
But I was thinking, if we just want to, since you are more of an expert on this topic with your the resilient model that you talk about, I know we've used this term a lot about resilience, and I use it in my work also as well. But how would you really define that? Because I think, again, when you're having those low thoughts, and you want to change that to a positive space, and that's where we say that your own resilience comes into the picture. So what is resilience, and how can you build that, and how can you make it stronger? Because again, when we say some people are able to cope with difficult situations, some are not, and some are more resilient again. So how do you become more resilient, or how are you less resilient? Do you want to just say something about that? Because I think we can.
I'll try to.
Yeah.
I'll try to. I know you called me an expert here, but I still feel like I'm learning.
Yeah, I guess life is about learning. We all go on learning, but yes, you are an expert here. You've done your PhD around this, so yes.
Yeah. Well, the model that I used is from the acceptance commitment therapy framework, using psychological flexibility. And some people argue about the term psychological flexibility. Like, what is it? Is it a set of strategies? Is it a set of processes? Is it an outcome? And I try not to really engage with that, because it's kind of like too academic, too technical. So, but if you want to define it in sort of an easy way to understand it, it is that it's about being able to contact, the present moment, no matter what you're feeling, positive, negative, without judgment, and being open to it, right? So when I was having that teary-eyed moment, I kind of tried to stay with it for a couple of seconds, and then I realized, I'm doing this interview. I can't have a full-on cry, but if I was, in my own space, I would probably let myself, have that. I probably let myself kind of see the 12-year-old vulnerable child struggle and sort of almost like visualize myself kind of comforting that child. So that's one part of the model. So it's been open to whatever is your experiences is, because we don't all we can't go through life without some negativity, right? We can't be positive all the time. We can't be drunk all of the time.
Yeah. I hope not. Yes.
No, I hope not. Exactly. Like you need some of that reality check every now and then. So that's one part of it. And the second part would be just about centering yourself in that experience, that seeing that and one significant part of that would be seeing that you're not actually those thoughts. So those thoughts are actually just thoughts, but they're not actually you.
Yeah.
In a fundamental way. You are the place where those thoughts are happening. Yeah. And that can be very, very powerful and help you sort of detach almost from negative evaluations or criticisms that you have towards yourself, and help you kind of navigate through your experiences and see, okay, what would be helpful for me in this situation. And then the third and final pillar of psychological flexibility would be kind of knowing what's important to you, knowing what you want your life to stand for, and committing yourself every day to living a life that is sort of coherent with that value or that life priority that you have for yourself. So for me, it's making a difference, and I try to commit myself to do that by, doing all these psychology degrees, by volunteering, and also trying to get a job where I can hopefully make a difference as well. So I think that's what resilience is. I think it's being able to have whatever you're going to have.
I think in the last bit about resilience, some of the words that I've picked up on, and I want to just highlight that before we go, is to be able to know what you really want to do and what your choices are, and
Yes.
then exercising your discretion there in terms of what choice you want to go with. But also another important thing, that a word that you use was judgment. So, like when we all judge ourselves, there's guilt, there's anger, there's self-blame, there's so much more and there's terrible things that are happening to us, but yet again, we are judging ourselves and blaming ourselves and making maybe not the right choices in that thing. So not judging yourself, even when you get any kind of suicidal thoughts or any kind of difficulty, then just be able to stand up, or feeling like a failure or these kind of things in your life, then standing up and saying, okay, yet another time, and move on, rather than judging yourself and saying, oh, you are a failure, or even repeating that word and making it sound funny rather than taking it on yourself and not being able to do something about it. So I think we all judge ourselves a lot and judge others a lot. So maybe that's something which we need to drop and see what the choices are, and then exercise your discretion to see what choice works best for you.
Yeah. And apply a bit of self-compassion towards yourself as well.
Yeah.
Although, I remember, this is probably going off on another tangent. With self-compassion in particular, like a lot of people kind of go, oh, but if I'm kind towards myself, I won't be motivated to do the things that I want to do. Fair enough. But then I think there's a lovely or kind of a lovely way of contacting what really it is about is by asking yourself, would you send your children, right, to a school where the teachers are really critical and really harsh and tell people, you have to do this, you have to do this, you're not doing it well enough, you're not doing it well enough? Or would you send the children to a school where the teachers are a little bit more warm, a little bit more compassionate, and kind of say, you did your best, but maybe, we could try a little harder the next time?
Yeah.
Where would you send your children? I bet you 80% of people will send it to the compassionate school. And I think that tells you that the compassionate approach to yourself is the best approach, I think.
I think that's a good point to kind of end this talk on, about compassion, self-compassion and compassion towards others. That's really important. Any last tip or message you want to give to the viewers or
I could say
goodbye for now?
I could go on for hours and hours. I think I think I've outrun everyone's time, and they're probably sick of listening to my voice.
I'm sure they're not.
And they're probably like, oh, I can't wait for this to end, and go, oh, thank God it's finished. But no, I think we'll leave it for another day.
Thank you so much, Jen, for being here. I know you've said this a couple of times to me while we were not on the recording, that you've done this for the first time in this way. You've kind of talked to different people about different pieces, but putting all this together and making these links and connections, you've done this for the first time in the recording.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for trusting me with this and coming on and talking about it and letting the world learn from your experiences. So I'm sure it will make a difference for a lot of people out there. So yeah,
Hopefully.
thank you very much for this.
Thanks, Javita, for this platform as well. It's been great.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.